Leonard knew he should be dead. When the Gargant began to fall drunkenly into a large gorge, he was sure his fate was to be crushed under its massive rear, his death as embarrassing as his life. But, as the Gargant began to see its end, it quickly grabbed the cage holding Leonard's flailing form and flung it to the other side of the gorge, saving Leonard's life. After Leonard pushed himself out of the now bent cage and had a moment to collect himself, he realized that he would miss the Gargant. Even though it had kept him in a cage against his will, bored him to tears with its depressing stories, and would have most likely eaten him eventually, he couldn't help but feel a loss for one of the few creatures in the realms that actually seemed to enjoy his lectures. By the third day of his walk away from the gorge, however, any thoughts Leonard had about his former Gargant friend were soon replaced with a rumbling stomach and a crippling thirst. The hostile life of the realm of Gur doing its best to keep him starved and desperate on his travels. As he felt his legs getting ready to give out, and his body beginning to slow, Leonard saw what he hoped would be his salvation. Tents. But not the crude tents of ogres and uroks, or the bloody and brutal tents of chaos. No, these were tents of such elegant design that Leonard knew they had to have been constructed by elves. Elves who, Leonard hoped, would take in a desperate scholar. As he burst out of the brush, tears obscuring his vision, Leonard crumpled to the ground and began spewing out his tale in a jumbled mess. The Moon Clan Grots, the Gutbusters, the Gargant, every terrible thing that had happened to him up to this point came out in a tear and snot-filled puddle, and as he looked up at his possible saviors, hoping for a shred of sympathy and mercy, his mouth dropped when he realized he was staring at several female elves, clad in revealing metal armor, and each wielding nasty-looking curved blades. Although not an expert on elven culture, Leonard knew enough to know that these elves were most likely Khainites, and although they were technically allies to Sigmar, that didn't mean they were friendly to all humans that crossed their path. And as he thought about how those blades may finally put an end to a surprisingly eventful but painful life, the Khainites began to laugh. One of them, the tallest and most well-built of the group, said a few short words in the flowing language of the elves before sheathing her blade. The others, still smiling, sheathed their own blades and returned to their camp, some of them mimicking Leonard's wild waving for a few moments, before bursting into even more laughter. The one Leonard assumed was the leader stepped before him, before casually grabbing Leonard by his robe and easily raising him to his feet. "Leonard, was it?" the elf stated as she looked down at him, a small smile playing across a sylvan face, marked by a few well-healed but still visible scars.
Yes,"
Leonard blurted out, trying not to look as scared as he felt. "Good. I wasn't sure I heard it correctly through all the spittle and tears. Now, Leonard, I have to ask, are you alright? You look absolutely terrified."
"Oh, sorry. I heard so many stories about the Khainites that I thought, I mean, not that those stories are real, it's just,
"Don't worry, Leonard," the elf stated, her smile widening at Leonard's stumbling words. "I'm not insulted. Fear preys on the ignorant, and you look especially ignorant, but we can cure that with knowledge. Something a scholar like you should appreciate. Come, let's get you something to eat. And while you do, I'll enlighten you with a bit of knowledge about our people. Perhaps it will alleviate some of your fear."
Oh, that's very kind of you."
"Of course. I am known as the Mercy Killer amongst my sisters for a reason."
Uh-huh.
"As you probably know, we Khainites worship the bloody-handed god Khaine and his agents in the realms Morathi, or Morathi Khaine, as she is now known after her recent ascension."
Ascension?
"Oh yes, she has recently become a goddess. It was quite the event. Although it has strained relations with a few of our allies, It's nothing that can't be healed with time. Anyway, our worship of Khaine comes in many forms, the most common being those of us who choose to become witch elves. Elves who train relentlessly to hone their combat skills to perfection, heightening the already well-known grace and speed of the elven people, all for the purpose of using such skills to spill as much blood as possible in honor of mighty Khaine. And they can spill that blood in many ways, killing prisoners, fighting captured beasts, and even gladiatorial combat amongst themselves. But only in true combat against a worthy foe can their souls become one with our murder god, their normally stoic and cold manner transforming with a frenzied fervor into a glorious murder trance. In battle, they wield sacrificial knives called seansas, weapons tempered in blood and blessed by hag queens. Some sisters even forge a little notch on the blade that increases the pain inflicted and helps the blood flow freely from the enemy's flesh. And like most of us, they generally prefer to wear little, except for what's necessary for modesty's sake, of course. Doing so ensures that as much blood as possible touches their flesh, while depending on their dexterity and speed to avoid enemy blows. Still, there is always the chance of injury from a random bolt or a lucky weapon strike, so some wear enchanted bracers or pauldrons to prevent such accidents from taking a deadly toll. Some of our sisters take their worship of Khaine to a rather extreme degree. These sisters form a subcult within the cult of Khaine known as the Sisters of Slaughter. While the witch elves constantly hone their skills, they occasionally take a break for personal matters, but the Sisters of Slaughter take their focus on combat to another level. These are elves who are overcome with a thirst for revenge, for some harm done to them, or are just overwhelmed with the murderous spirit of Khaine. They willingly choose to undertake the Oath of Druharu, a ritual that requires a pool of boiling blood and quite a bit of pain. During the ritual, a mask of living metal is permanently bonded to their face, obscuring it forever, which I should tell you is quite the sacrifice for a daughter of Khaine. We don't have many weaknesses, but I will admit, vanity is one of the big ones. Right after the ritual, the sister must then immediately fight other members of the cult, continuing to fight even when blood loss from their sister strikes threaten to drive them unconscious. If they can stay awake long enough, they are considered worthy of joining. If they don't, they die, and their blood is added to the pool. In battle, they wield barbed whips known as criplashes, weapons that are practiced to such levels that the sisters can flay skin from flesh, lacerate eyes, and even puncture armor. And they are so confident in their skills and in Khaine's blessing that they often fight in an exaggerated manner, leaping, spinning, posing, a dance of death that praises Khaine and mocks our enemies. I would tell you more, Leonard, but I must speak with my sisters on another matter. Enjoy your soup. We will speak later.
Of course, Mercy Killer. But I do have a question, even though it's probably stupid for me to ask. Why are you being so, nice to me?
Well, you see, Leonard, you're the type of man that I, or really any daughter of Khaine, really appreciates.
Oh. Do you mean, learned? Scholarly? Well-read?
No, dear. Pathetic.
Oh. Yeah, that fits.
Hey guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video on the Witch Elves and the Sisters of Slaughter of the Daughters of Khaine. If you like it, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell, etc. So you know the drill. It's just so the YouTube guys knows I exist and hopefully more people who might enjoy my content might see it. If you like it, and only if you're inclined, please send a little money my way to my Patreon or my Coffee account. The extra money gives me the time I need to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening/watching, and see you next time.